Hey guys, we're working on this 2013 Ford Edge. We're going to be changing out rear sway bar links today. And if you want to see how to change out the front sway bar links, we also have a video for that. But we're going to be exchanging the factory sway bar links for these nice TTX line sway bar links by Mevotech. These things are the beefiest of the beef. If you're looking for something that's going to hold up for a long time, probably never have to change them ever again, these are the ones to get. As you can see, designed and built for endurance and overbuilt for durability. So that's their motto. You can see these things are extra thick compared to the factory ones that we just did on the front. Look how much thicker and nicer these are. They're also greasable. We've got grease fittings that are included, as well as new hardware. And the nice thing that I like about Mevotech's products is the hardware is actually matched to be the same size as the factory hardware. A lot of times you buy these cheap aftermarket links and you'll find, oh, the nuts are now 19 millimeter instead of 18, and then you got to go get a different tool, and it's just really annoying. These also have a double seal on them, so extra sealed to prevent rust from entering the joint. Also, they are coated as well with a special coating that prevents them from corroding and rusting. So very, very nice. And one other thing that you do get is you get a wrench. So every time you buy one of these things, you get a wrench, which is nice for installation, and you get to put another wrench in your toolbox. So without further ado, I suppose we better get started now. You're gonna wanna lift up your vehicle, whether it's on jack stands or if you have the luxury of using a hoist, that's nice. To get the wheel off, we've got 5 19 millimeter wheel nuts. So we're gonna go ahead and take those off now. All right, so our sway bar link is going to be located right here. You can see that there's a shield that's here. There's the top nut, so it just sits on the back of this trailing arm. And looks pretty simple. These ones might have been changed out already. They might not be factory. Doesn't look like they are anyways. So I'm just going to figure out, looks like we've got a different size nut, just like I told you. Different size nut here. And what we're going to want to do, once I figure out what size hardware we need, you can see how rusty these are. So a big problem with these is you go to take them off, and when you try to loosen the nut, the stud will actually spin, and then you can't get the nut off. So I'll show you with this thing. You see how on the inside of this, there's actually a stud, right? There's a ball inside of there, and this thing can spin. So all the rust is gonna jam up the threads, and when you go to turn the nut, this will just spin and spin and spin. You'll never get the nut off. So you'll notice on these ones, there is a hex key cut out for one of these sockets, okay? Hex key, 6 millimeter for the front. I'm gonna clean this one out and see. This one looks like it's smaller. I'm just gonna get all the rust off of here. We'll clean it up and assess what size hardware we need, or what sockets we need. And we'll go from there. I got safety protection on. I'm gonna be using this needle descaler. Most of you at home probably won't have the luxury of using this thing, but what I would use next after this is what you can probably use, which is a drill and a wire wheel. So pretty simple. The name of the game right now is to get as much rust off as we can, clean these threads up. That's gonna give us the best chance of getting this nut off. Guys, we got this cleaned up. So the nuts are actually gonna be 15 millimeter. And the center hex key is actually going to be 5 millimeter. So, sorry, I didn't tell you about the right sway bar link. That one was for the front. But yeah, this one is for the back. Okay, it also comes with the shield. Very nice. You can see the shield down there. A lot of sway bar links that you buy, not going to come with that. So, just basically what I'm going to do now, get that lined up in there. Make sure we get all of the rust out, and now what I'm going to do is just go at it with the wire wheel to clean it up again. We want these threads to be as clean as we can possibly get them to try to get that off. And you'll notice I'm going to try to show you all the ways to get this off without cutting it. A lot of people will use the torch and just melt them off, or they'll use a cutoff wheel, or they'll use a sawzall and chop them off. It is a quick way to do it. I'm going to show you how to do it with hand tools. So Most of the time, if this was perfectly clean, you could usually just use an impact gun, zip that nut right off. So most of these nuts will have a thread locker in them. It's a nylon, and that's going to act as a thread locker. So it goes on, sort of distorts onto the threads and helps the nut not come off. So the first way to do this is using a wrench, preferably a ratchet wrench, and then a hex key bit. And then what's going to happen is, as we go to loosen this off, the stud's probably going to want to spin, and that's where this comes into play. It holds the stud and keeps it from spinning. So let me just clean these up a little bit more. All right, we're just gonna hit this with a little bit of penetrating oil right now and let that sit for a couple minutes. And we're also gonna follow this up with a little bit of heat, because I know what we're gonna be dealing with here. But yeah, for those of you at home that probably don't have heat, just soak that thing in penetrating oil. Once you get it clean, get as much rust off as you can. I'm telling you, that's the name of the game. Get these things off, clean them. I can't stress that enough. So we're gonna let that sit for a few minutes, and then I'm going to grab the induction heater, and we'll get some heat into this thing so we can take it off. All right, we're using the induction heater right now, creating a magnetic field, heating up that metal. You can see it's starting to smoke right now. And if it's got any of that nylon thread locker on there, it's also going to help melt that, which should give us a better chance at getting that nut off. Now, I'm gonna take this off and immediately go for the impact gun. And we're gonna see if this thing will just buzz off or not. And just as I thought, immediately goes to spinning, and I'm gonna grab the ratchet wrench and also the hex key. All right, so you can see now what I'm gonna do. I'm getting a little tight right now, so I don't wanna force it, otherwise that's going to round off. So now I'm gonna hit it with some more penetrating oil, seeing as I just cooked away what was on there. And we're just gonna go back and forth, tighten it on a little bit, loosen it off a little bit. Keep going back and forth, hopefully we can get this nut off. All right, so that's one side. I'm gonna show you a bit of a different way, just in case that didn't work for you on the bottom, using some vice grips. Hopefully we can make that work. This shield is gonna be in our way, but a lot of times, like if this hole rounds out, what you can do is just use some needle nose vice grips, and you wanna clamp it just on the other side of this stud. Here's the other sway bar length from the front so I can show you. But where this goes through, you'll be able to come in from the back and try to grab it right there. So if that hole strips out, that's what you're gonna wanna do next, basically, is grab this, opposed to actually like cutting it off. But let's lift this thing up in the air so we can see what we're doing on the bottom. We'll do the other side. All right, I was gonna try this with the vice grips, but you can't because the shield's in the way. So I should have showed you that in the first one. It would still be difficult though, because this arm is right in the way and it's just not very convenient. You can see our emergency brake cable mounts. The sway bar link goes through that, so kind of gets in your way. This induction heater though, pretty good for a lot of stuff. In this case, you could use a torch if you wanted to. There's not a lot of rubber components around, but for the front ones, the axle boot's like right there. So, all right, that thing is she's a cooking right now. So we're just gonna go. Oh, wrong one. Heat makes all the difference in a world of rust, I tell you. Clean those threads and heat them all up. Everything comes apart nice. All right, we're almost ready to install our new TTX joint. Careful she's not hot. All right, there's the comparison difference. Beefy, everything's super overbuilt. Looks like it's gonna last forever. We'll probably never have to replace this ever again. Why wouldn't you upgrade to those? All right, up to you whether you wanna do this or not, but we're just gonna go ahead and clean these mounting points just to make sure there's no rust or dirt or anything on there. So I just got my wire brush on the drill. And we're just gonna go ahead and clean all of the mounting points. All right guys, we're installing the grease fittings now. Before we put this link in, 10 millimeters is the size you're gonna need. All right, so you can see this wrench that they supply with it, 18 millimeter. That's gonna be fitting the stud. It also has the hex key cut out of the stud as well, so it just gives you another option to tighten it on or loosen it off, which is fantastic. Now what we want to do is install this. We're not going to worry about putting grease in it right now. These come pre-installed with some high performance grease, so really the greasable joints are there just to give it that serviceability for down the road. Basically, when you go to do oil changes and whatever, you know, get that grease job done, then we can do that. So there we go. We've got this thing pretty much installed. Oh, I need to put this cover back on. How the hell does that go on? All right. There's a little piece of the cover there that squares up with the sway bar link, so you just make sure that's in the right place. And we gotta put the nuts on. All right, we'll put these little caps on. It's just gonna protect the grease fitting from any moisture intrusion. One there, perfect. Now we're just gonna start the nuts. Beautiful, I love that they're the same size as the factory joint. And now we're gonna tighten those down. Look at that, didn't even need to hold the stud. That's beautiful. All right, now we're gonna torque these down. They get torqued to 30 foot-pounds. All right. Perfect. I think that pretty much concludes how to remove and replace these TTX sway bar links by Mevotech. And the last thing we pretty much need to do is just get the wheel on. So throw your wheel on there, get all the nuts started. We're gonna torque those down to 100 foot-pounds in a 5-star pattern. Want to do 2 passes of that just to make sure that they are tight. And then always make sure too that the surface between the disc and the wheel is clean, no corrosion, no rust, none of that. I think that's pretty much it. So if you have any questions, throw them in the comments below. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.